My client's finger was hovering over the merge button, about to push a pipeline that was going to silently bleed cash. The dirty secret about modern data engineering is that a successful run can still get you fired. A green check mark in your orchestrator doesn't always mean that the code is production ready. It just means that it didn't crash today. I recently audited a daily aggregation pipeline for a client. The mid-level engineer who wrote it was incredibly proud of all the work that he put into it. It completed perfectly, the data quality checks passed, and the business stakeholders were getting their dashboards. But when the CFO got their AWS bill at the end of the quarter, there was a $50,000 hole in their budget. The engineer had created a silent failure. It was racking up DBUs, or Databricks units, like a slot machine. If you want to survive the next round of tech layoffs and you want to earn your next promotion, you have to stop writing code that just works and start writing code that protects the bottom line of the business. Technical skills are absolutely meaningless unless they solve a business problem or save money. Over the next 15 minutes, we're going beyond the concepts and into the UI to show you exactly where you can earn your senior title. Now, a lot of mid-level engineers are stuck in their careers, constantly asking, why am I not moving up? Here is the brutal, honest truth. You are looking at the wrong screen. Juniors stare at the syntax in their PySpark notebooks. Seniors are looking for the logic gaps and, more importantly, looking at the execution plan. When I am auditing your pull request, I'm looking at it through one lens. Would I fire someone who made these mistakes? If you want to find the bottlenecks, you have to leave your IDE. We are going to the job runs page. Never trust a notebook run. Notebooks mask performance issues because the cluster is already warm and the data is often cached. Here's what we're going to do. Click on the specific job run, open the cluster logs, and then click on the Spark UI. This is where all your truth lives. So let's go beyond the conceptual. Look into the UI and into the actual damage. All right, we are in the Databricks Free Edition UI. Today, we're going to take a look at this notebook that we created for the MDM demo that we previously had done in the channel. So when you're in your notebook and you're wanting to troubleshoot where your bottlenecks are, scroll down through your notebook that's been ran, and you'll see these sections that say C performance. So you'll be able to expand those and you'll kind of see the duration for each of those, along with any bytes used, any rows that were read, and any bytes that were written. And that's just basics, right? That just gives you an idea, okay, maybe this is something that I want to look into. But let's scroll down through here a little bit. We're going to expand this one. Let's take a look at this one right here. And when you click on that, you'll expand it, you'll click on the link. It's going to open up this window to the right. And you're going to click on See Query Profile, and it's going to give you a few boxes. So this one, not a whole lot to it, right? There's a local table scan, there's this row to columnar, and then we have our write into our accounts table. So not a whole lot here. We see that the long leg is our actual write, which is to be expected. We could see that's where most of the time was spent. We actually have some options here. We could look at the memory peak. So we see that the local table scan is our memory peak, which again, to be expected. Any of your local table scans are going to be high, especially if you see like an RDD scan. Then we click on rows and we could see that the rows are pretty even in between each of these three tasks here that have occurred. So that's a simple one. I want to look at a more complex option here. And I had one in here that I really want to look at. So this union. So again, we'll click on the link, click on See Query Profile, and you see that this one is a little bit more complicated, right? There was a join. There's a few different table scans here, right? For each of the tables that were referenced, the accounts, the companies, and the customers. And so then it goes into this native union, and then it writes to this company's table for our master data. So we see that there's these three different table scans. And when we click on memory peak, we see that the memory peak actually occurred during the write. And then we see the rows. The rows are pretty broken up even between the table scans. And then we see the native union has kind of accumulation of those three. And then to be expected, those after the union, it wrote that to the company's table. So there's a couple of options, a couple of different places to look at when you're looking at these things. When you're looking at those diagrams, I'm going to give you one more that we're going to look at here in a moment. But when we're looking at these diagrams, they could be even more complex, right? They'll show your shuffles. They'll show, again, the local table scans. They'll show your RDD scans. They're going to show your merges, your unions, every individual part of that execution plan. That's where you find it. That's one of the most common questions I get asked is in Databricks, where do I see my execution plan? Well, right there it is. All right, as promised, this one's a little bit more complex. Here you see we have the shuffles, we have filters, we have, again, the row to columnar, just like we do before. Like I mentioned, sometimes you see these RDD scans. We have the table scans here, metadata subqueries, result query stages. It really shows you the full execution plan. And when you see some of these things, when you see multiple of some of these things, especially within the same branch, you might think about how these queries are being written and how you can make them more efficient. So for example, in this one, we see a shuffle, a grouping, another shuffle, another grouping before we finally get to the column or to row. And then we're applying a limit, result query stage, the subquery, another table scan. And then on the other side of this branch, we have a shuffle, the aggregate, another shuffle, another aggregate, another shuffle exchange sync, a runtime filter, column to row finally, the result query stage, the metadata subquery, and then we're doing another filter, another shuffle, and then on this other side, again, filter shuffle. So there's a lot of shuffling, a lot of filtering going on just in this one process. These are the things to look at when you are evaluating whether or not you need to refactor something, right? Look at these execution paths. Troubleshoot where your bottlenecks are. Figure out, am I doing a bunch of table scans that are burning up my memory and my compute? Am I doing a bunch of processes in here that maybe may not be the most efficient way? The goal of data engineering is anti-fragility. We do not design for the happy path tutorials. We build systems that survive reality. If the documentation explains how to write the syntax for these fixes, then skip it. You could read that on your own time. I'm telling you why you use them in production to stop the bleeding. Here is the production grade fix to stop burning cache. Step 1, fix the table scan. We have to fix the storage layer, enforce Z-ordering, and strict partition pruning on your Delta tables. Don't necessarily rely on liquid clustering. And when you are, make sure that you're auditing that, make sure that it's clustering on the appropriate things. If you partition by date and Z-order, by your most frequently joined ID, you achieve predicate pushdown. When we implemented this, that file scan that I was talking about at the beginning of the call, that node dropped from reading 50 terabytes to reading 50 gigabytes. Step 2, kill the shuffle. If your dimension table is under a few gig, you need to force a broadcast hash join. You literally then give Spark a hint in the code. This forces the driver to send that entire small table to every single worker node in memory. What happens in the execution plan? The exchange node completely disappears. That network shuffle is gone and the data never moves. If the data is too large to broadcast and you have that massive skew that we saw in some of those scans that we saw earlier, you need to implement salting. You append a random integer to your skewed keys to force Spark to distribute the data evenly across your workers. That way you're eliminating all of that spill to different disks. Step 3, stop the compute bleed. Finally, we mitigate the workload. You never run automated pipelines on all-purpose interactive compute. Use your job clusters. It cuts your DBU cost by a multiplier instantly. This setup costs you maybe an extra hour of architectural planning and code refactoring, but it is way cheaper than a lawsuit and is cheaper than explaining to the board why you blew your cloud budget. Always link your code decisions to ROI. Walk into your next performance review, show your manager the Spark UI before and after your fix, and prove that your architectural choices just cut the monthly cloud bill by 30%. That is how you get promoted. If you want to survive in this industry, you need to master this kind of cost-conscious engineering. You need to understand architecture, not just syntax. But knowing how to fix a pipeline is only half the battle. The other half, proving to a hiring manager or your VP that you actually execute. I see too many engineers applying for senior roles with Kaggle tutorials or Titanic datasets on their resume. That's just not going to get you promoted. It's going to get your resume tossed out in the trash. You need a portfolio filled with end-to-end real-world business problems. I recently launched my app that automatically generates custom production-grade data engineering projects tailored exactly to the target role and industry that you're breaking into. And if you're ready to build your portfolio that will win you your job offer, watch this right now.